The mount the Alliance can get from this zone is the Winter Spring Frost Saber, and to get started with this you'll want to head to the north side of the zone. Here you'll find Frost Saber Rock, and on top of said rock you'll find an NPC called Revern Frostwind. They'll have a quest for you which will eventually turn into a daily. You'll have to do 20 days of dailies, and on the last day you'll be awarded with the Winter Spring Frost Saber. Our next destination is going to be Darkshore, and there will be mounts available here for both Horde and Alliance. First of all, we're going to be talking about the 4 rare spawns which can be killed once per cycle. A cycle is basically when the warfront goes from being in the patrolling state into the sieging state, etc., and then all the way back to the patrolling state again. When that happens, the rares will be once again eligible to be killed. These 4 rares that I'm going to mention have around a 5% chance of dropping the mounts each. The first mount up is going to be the Ashen Veil Chimera, and this is going to drop from Alash Anir, which is killable by both Horde and Alliance. The next mount up is Blackpaw, and for Horde you'll need to kill the Blackpaw rare. For Alliance you'll need to kill a Geth Wormwood, which both spawn in around the same spot. The next mount up is the Kaldurai Nightsaber, and for Horde you'll need to kill Shadowclaw, and for Alliance you'll need to kill Cross Blood Rage. And finally we have the Umber Nightsaber, which for Horde you'll need to kill Athil Dewfire, and for Alliance you'll need to kill Moxo the Beheader. There is an additional mount you can get from Darkshore, and that is the Frightened Kodo, but you won't kill the Frightened Kodo, instead you'll find it and click on it and you will get the mount 100% guaranteed. The difficult part though is the Frightened Kodo is on a 2 to 8 hour-ish respawn timer, and when it does respawn it's only around for a minute or so you need to be actively looking for it to be able to find it. It has 5 spawn locations which I'll mark now, and I would recommend creating a macro to target the Frightened Kodo and spam that as you're flying around, just to make it a little bit easier to find it. When it does spawn, it'll kind of run backwards and forwards in one of its spawn locations. You'll find it, you'll click on it, and you will get yourself the mount. The next stop is Hyjal, and the first place there is going to be the Firelands. You can run this on 10 man, 25 man, normal, heroic, it doesn't matter. But the 2 bosses in particular that we're interested in is Alice Razor for the Flame Talon of Alice Razor, which is on around a 2% drop chance. And then also Ragnaros for the Pure Blood Firehawk, which is on around a 1% drop chance. As this is a raid, you'll only be able to do this once per week per character, but you can run this on your alts as well if you want to. Although with Firelands done, we're not quite done in Hyjal yet. The next mount up is the Flame Ward Hippogriff, which is going to come from completing dailies at the Molten Front. To get started with the Molten Front, you'll have needed to have aided the 4 Guardians within the zone. Once all 4 Guardians have been aided, then you'll be able to speak to Mato Claw, who you'll find in the Sanctuary of Malorn. That'll give you the quest opening the door. You'll go through that quest chain and you'll begin to unlock the dailies. You'll come back and do all of the dailies every day, and you'll have to do this for about a month. Once you're done with all of that, you'll get the achievement, which will award you with the Flame Ward Hippogriff. The next stop on our Kalimdor tour is going to be Orgrimmar, and this is obviously for Horde only. Here we're going to find access to 2 things, the first thing being Deepholm, and within Deepholm you'll find the Dungeon Stonecore. From the second boss within Stonecore, you can do this on normal or heroic. You'll find the mount, the Vitreous Stone Drake. That's on about a 1% drop chance, and you can repeat this over and over again if you want to on normal, until you get locked out of course. Or you can do it once a day on heroic. The drop chances are exactly the same. Also within the zone of Deepholm, you'll find the rare spawn Aeonax, although Aeonax is actually a rare spawn of a rare spawn, so you could be waiting a day to find it, you could be waiting 3 days, you could be waiting a week. It's a quite RNG heavy respawn timer. But when Aeonax does spawn, you'll kill it and you'll get yourself the Phosphorescent Stone Drake, which will be on a 100% drop chance. The hard part is just finding Aeonax. So now that we're done with Deepholm, we're going to head back through the portal and back to Orgrimmar. And if the Dark Moon Fair is up, it comes up at the start of a new month for about a week. We can speak to an NPC in Orgrimmar who will take us to the Dark Moon Island portal located in Mulgore. You'll click on that portal and that will take you to the Dark Moon Island. Once there, there'll be 3 different mounts we can get from the Dark Moon prize tickets, and you get Dark Moon prize tickets from handing in the quest items, which you get from the Adventurer's Guide. This can be done once per cycle, so every month basically. You can be farming these from various sources using the Adventurer's Guide, having it in your inventory, but I generally buy them from the auction house. They don't cost that much. You can also be doing the daily quests at the Dark Moon Fair Island, which will also give you Dark Moon prize tickets. And with the tickets, we'll be able to buy 3 mounts. The first being the Swift Forest Strider. This is going to cost 180 tickets. The second being the Dark Moon Dancing Bear, that's also going to cost 180 tickets. And then finally we have the Dark Moon Dirigible, which is going to cost 1,000 tickets. So that's going to be the one that you're going to be working towards the most. Also, while you're here, you could do a spot of fishing, and you'll be able to get the Dark Moon Dagger Moors, which can either be used to turn in for another mount, which is the Dark Moon Fair Skate, or alternatively you can buy the Dagger Moors from the auction house. There's also a quest item that you can buy once per character that will give you a decent chunk of tickets too, so if you haven't done that, I definitely would recommend doing it. I think it gives like 200 tickets, so it's definitely doing the first time round if you haven't done it. Our next stop is going to be Dustwallow Marsh, regardless of if you're Horde or Alliance, and there we'll find the raid Onyxia's Lair. From that we can get the Drake, the Onyxian Drake. So you want to head inside the raid and kill Onyxia. It doesn't matter if you do this on 10 man or 25 man, it's not going to change anything. Kill Onyxia and you'll have around a 1% chance of the Onyxian Drake dropping. With Onyxia killed, our next stop is going to be Horde only, and that is going to be Ungoro Crater. From Ungoro Crater we're going to be able to get the Venom Hide Ravasaur, so you'll head to Ungoro, and in the southeast part of the zone you'll find an NPC called Morvac. They'll have a quest for you, which is quite an annoying quest chain, but once you get through it with a bit of struggle and time, then you'll be on a set of dailies, and you'll have to do 20 days of dailies. Once you're done with all of that, then you'll be able to pick yourself up the Venom Hide Ravasaur. Coming to the end of our Kalimdor World Tour now, we only have a few zones left, and the next one up is going to be Silithus. In the south end of this zone you'll find a raid called AQ Forta, or also known as Temple of Anchorage. And if you head inside that raid, we're going to be able to get one of 4 mounts, or you can get all 4 at once as well. And that is going to be the blue, green, yellow, and red Karaju Resonating Crystal. Now the downside is these mounts can only be used within this raid, but they do count towards your total mount collection, so they're worth getting if you don't have them already. You have 2 options for getting these mounts. You can either kill out all of the trash before the first boss and keep resetting until you get the mounts, the red one being significantly rarer than the other 3, so you could kill out the trash over and over again without killing the first boss and keep resetting, or you could clear out the whole raid and hope you get all of the mounts that you want. If not, you'd have to come back when it resets. Down to the final 2 zones now, and the next one up is going to be Uldum, which has a handful of mounts we can get from it. The first one up being the Grey Riding Camel, which is quite difficult to get because it's kind of like a rare spawn and then a proc of that rare spawn. It's weird. But throughout the zone you'll find this item called Mysterious Camel Figurine. It can spawn pretty much anywhere across the zone. It does have set positions, but it does spawn all around the zone. If you find one of these, there can only be one up at a time, and it does have about a 2 to 8 hour respawn. If you happen to find one, you'll click it, and when you click it, you'll have about a 5 to 10% chance of it either turning into dust or teleporting you to a separate phased area where you'll have a rare spawn that you can kill. And when you kill that rare spawn, you'll get yourself the title and the Grey Riding Camel. So once again, a kind of rare spawn of a rare spawn type deal, and you're probably going to be going after this for quite a while. And the statues are really small, so you have to really be paying attention and looking out for them. The next stop within Uldum is going to be Throne of the Four Winds, and from this raid we can potentially get the Drake of the South Wind. So you'll find Throne of the Four Winds kind of southwest of the zone, and it is in the air as well, so you will need to fly to it. It's a raid, so we can only do this once per week per character. So you'll head inside, and it's the last boss that we're after, Alakir. You'll kill Alakir, and you'll have around a 1% chance of getting the mount. The final stop within Uldum is going to be Vortex Pinnacle, which we'll find more southeast of the zone, and this is a dungeon that can give us Drake of the Northwind. So you'll head over to Vortex Pinnacle, which once again is in the air. You'll head inside, and you can do this on either normal or heroic, but it is a farmable mount if you do it on normal, so you can do it over and over again. You're going to run through the dungeon, and we want to kill the second boss in the dungeon, Alteris. You'll kill Alteris, you'll have around a 1% chance of getting Drake of the Northwind. If you don't get it, I would recommend just jumping off, and that'll take you to the start of the dungeon where you can reset a little bit quicker. You're not jumping off in disappointment. And then that's pretty much it. You can rinse and repeat this raid over and over again if you want to, or you could just run it on heroic once per day if you want to, but the drop chance doesn't change, so it's really up to you how you want to approach farming this mount. The final zone in our Kalimdor tour is going to be Tanaris, and there's actually quite a few mounts we can potentially get from this zone as well, all of which are going to come from the Caverns of Time, which you'll find kind of on the east side of the zone. So you'll want to head to the Caverns of Time, and you'll head into the center of the Caverns of Time area. Here we'll find a bunch of dungeons and raids, but there'll be two in particular that are of interest to us. The first being the Dungeon Cullen of Stratholme. From this we can get the Bronze Drake on 100% drop chance. So you'll head in there, you'll be making sure you're on heroic difficulty, and you'll clear through the dungeon. As a 120 you should be able to do this in plenty of time, but you'll essentially have a timer on the top of your screen, and you have to make it towards the last boss, not kill the last boss, but just get into the last boss's area. And before you make it into the last boss's room, if you take a left you'll find an infinite dragon, which will be kind of like a mini boss. You'll kill that mini boss, and you'll be awarded with the Bronze Drake on 100% drop chance, assuming you've done everything in time. So with the Cullen of Stratholme done, the next point of interest in the Caverns of Time is going to be Dragon Soul. This is a raid, so you can only do it once per week, and there's going to be 3 mounts we can potentially get from here. The first being from the 4th boss Ultraxion, which is going to be Experiment 12B. That's going to be on around a 1% drop chance. So you'll head in there, you'll kill extra Ultraxion, you'll have around a 1% chance of this mount dropping. Now I would recommend doing Dragon Soul on Heroic, as doing it on Heroic will give you a chance for the 3rd mount. If you do it on Normal, you're only going to be able to get potentially 2 mounts instead of 3. So if you go through the whole raid, you make your way to Madness of Deathwing. Then from Madness of Deathwing 10 men, you'll be able to get the Blazing Drake, which I think is on about a 2%-ish drop chance. And if you do this on Heroic, doing Madness of Deathwing, you're going to be able to get the Blazing Drake again, but also the Lifebinder's Handmaiden, which is a Heroic only drop. That's on about a 1% drop chance. I do believe the Blazing Drake has a slightly higher drop chance than the Lifebinders. I might be slightly wrong with that because data is skewed. But either way, keep coming into the raid and killing off Ultraxion and then Madness of Deathwing to try and get all of the 3 rare drops from this raid. So that does bring us to the end of our Kalimdor World Tour, but I will be covering the other continents and the mounts that you can get from the various zones within those continents in videos coming up very soon. So look out for those if you found this a little bit fun and interesting. Either way, look out for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya.
Ascension WoW is a free-to-play World of Warcraft private server where you create your own custom class. Mix and match spells from any class in the game to create something completely original to suit your playstyle. Want to play a Titan's Grip Wind Fury Shaman that fire cleaves through enemies? You got it! Maybe an Arcane Hunter whose shots trigger Missile Barrage? Done! Or what about a Warlock Rogue Shadow Priest that drops 6 dots on their target, vanishes, and watches as they helplessly struggle to find you, their life slowly draining away within the shadows, unable to save themselves? Choose any spell and talent from any class to build your own original hero, or take on Wildcard Mode. Roll completely random skills and see what luck has in store. Joining is easy. Make an account and download the launcher to join hundreds of thousands of players. Tackle dungeons, raids, battlegrounds, prestige, arenas, and more as you conquer Azeroth with your custom hero. What will you build on Ascension?
In this episode of our World of Warcraft Mount Farm World Tour, we're going to be taking a look at the mounts you can get in Eastern Kingdoms, the ones that make sense at least for this series. In the last episode, we took a look at the mounts you can get in Kalimdor, and there should be a pop-up now if you missed that episode. Our first stop is going to be the Isle of Quel'Danas, which we'll find way off north of Eastern Kingdoms, and to get there you either want to take the flight path, or alternatively if you head over to Shattrath City, which is found in Outland, you'll find a portal that will take you directly to the Isle of Quel'Danas, probably the fastest way of getting there depending on where you are currently. Once you're on the island, you'll find a dungeon called Magister's Terrace, and if you run Magister's Terrace on heroic difficulty, then the mount that we can get from this dungeon is the Swift White Hawkstrider. That's going to be on about a 3 to 4% chance of dropping, and it's going to drop from the last boss of the dungeon, Quel'Thas Sunstrider. As this is a dungeon, you're going to be able to run it once per day on heroic, so you can have one chance of doing it per character every single day. The next destination is going to be the Ghostlands, and off to the east of the Ghostlands you'll find the dungeon Zul'Aman. From this dungeon we can get the mount the Armani Battle Bear. So what you'll want to do is head inside Zul'Aman on heroic difficulty. You'll head in and you'll speak to Vol'jin, who will basically start the event to start the dungeon. You'll have to click on the gong. Once the gong has been clicked and the gates open, you'll see a timer at the top of your screen. So to get this mount, what we have to do is complete the first 4 bosses within that time frame. For a 120 character, there should be no problem whatsoever. Just kill the first 4 bosses in the order that I killed them in. The order isn't particularly important, it just makes sure you don't make any mistakes or fail along the way. So you'll kill the first 4 bosses, and then on the 4th boss kill, it's not actually the loot from the boss that we care about. Instead, you're going to speak to the prisoner in the cage, and they'll run around and break all of the pots. And then on the final pot that they break, there will be a bag. Inside the bag should be the Armani Battle Bear. Now this is meant to be a 100% drop chance. Some people do claim that they've not got the mount from their first run. I'm just going to say it's either bugged, and I would check the other prisoners, the other 3 prisoners that you saved, and check their loot, because it may have bugged out and ended up with them. Or they've just done it wrong in some way, shape or form. But some people do claim this weird like 99% drop chance. So if you don't get it on your first run and you're sure you've checked all the other prisoners, then just come back the next day, because it's pretty unlikely that you do it 2 days in a row and don't get it if this 99% drop chance is actually true. Just next door to the Ghostlands will be our next destination, and that's going to be the Eastern Plaguelands. Within Eastern Plaguelands you'll find the dungeon Strathholm, and there's actually 2 entrances for Strathholm. We have the living side, which is kind of like the main entrance, and then you have the undead side, which is the service side entrance. So we'll want to go to the side entrance, which you'll find just kind of east of the main entrance. Here you'll find a little gate, you'll click on the gate and you'll be able to head inside. From this dungeon we'll be able to get the Mount Rivendare's Death Charger, which is going to be a 1% drop chance from the last boss, Aureus Rivendare. So to get to the last boss you'll have to clear through the dungeon, but this one can be a little bit tricky if it's your first time running it. First of all, you'll have to destroy the 3 ziggurats, and to do that you'll kill the boss outside of them, and then all the bosses inside. Once all 3 of them are destroyed, the Butcher Quarter, I think it's called, will open up. You'll head over there and you'll kill off all of the A-bombs in this area. Once you've killed them all, then a larger boss A-bomb will spawn, you'll kill that. Then a side gate will open and a wave of undead will spawn, and you'll have to kill all those little undead. Then when you're finally done with that, 4 kind of bodyguards will come out, you'll kill the bodyguards, and you'll finally have access to the last boss, where you can get yourself a chance at the mount. As this is done on a normal dungeon, you can run out after killing the last boss, reset it, run back in, and have another chance of getting the mount. You can keep doing this over and over again. The only thing that will slow you down / limit you is the 10 lockouts per hour, but outside of that, you can keep doing it as much or as little as you want and keep having repeated chances at the mount in one day. Our next stop is going to be Arathi Highlands for the new rares that were introduced with the Warfront changes. There's going to be 5 rares here for Horde and Alliance, and these are all going to drop a mount that will be on about a 5 to 6% drop chance. You can only kill these rares once per cycle though, not once per week or once per day, once per cycle. A cycle is when the Warfront goes from the patrolling state all the way through the other various states like the Siege, etc. back into patrolling. Once it gets to patrolling again, you'll be able to have another shot at the mounts. The first mount up is going to be the Little Donkey, and this is going to drop from Overseer Crix. Now this rare will move depending on who is in control of Arathi Highlands at the time. If Horde is in control, then the rare will appear in the Alliance mines, and if Alliance is in control, then the rare will appear in the Horde mines. So do keep that in mind when you're looking for the rare. The next mount up is going to change depending on if you're Horde or Alliance. For Horde you're going to get the Broken Highland Mustang, and that is going to drop from Knight Captain Aldrin. And for Alliance you're going to get the Highland Mustang, which comes from Doom Rider Helgrim. The next mount up is Skull Ripper, and this is going to be the same for Horde and Alliance, and its spot won't change, and it drops from the rare Skull Ripper. It will run around the rock a little bit, but it's pretty much always in the same spot. The next mount is the Witherbark Direwing, and this is going to drop from Nimar the Slayer, which is going to be the same for Horde and Alliance also. And then the final mount is the Swift Albino Raptor, once again same for Horde and Alliance, and this is going to come from a rare very close to Nimar called Beast Rider Kama. So you'll find that it'll be walking up and down a little bit, but you should find it pretty easily, kill that, and then that is the last of the rares that we can get from Arathi Highland. The next spot on our Eastern Kingdoms tour is going to be Stormwind, so that's obviously going to be for Alliance only, and the 2 points of interest here are going to be Deepholm and the Darkmoon Fair if that's up. The reason this is Eastern Kingdoms only is because we covered these on the Kalimdor one for Horde, which is their access points for these 2 places. So our first stop is going to be Deepholm, and to get there you'll head over to the northeastish side of the zone. You'll find a portal circle. There'll be a bunch of portals in like a circle in the water, and you'll click on the one that will take you to Deepholm. and within Deepholm you'll find the Dungeon Stonecore. From the second boss within Stonecore, you can do this on normal or heroic. You'll find the mount, the Vitreous Stone Drake. That's on about a 1% drop chance, and you can repeat this over and over again if you want to on normal, until you get locked out of course, or you can do it once a day on heroic. The drop chances are exactly the same. Also within the zone of Deepholm, you'll find the rare spawn Aeonax, although Aeonax is actually a rare spawn of a rare spawn, so you could be waiting a day to find it, you could be waiting 3 days, you could be waiting a week. It's a quite RNG heavy respawn timer. But when Aeonax does spawn, you'll kill it and you'll get yourself the Phosphorescent Stone Drake, which will be on a 100% drop chance. The hard part is just finding it.
Why does anyone wear ponchos if they never actually work? All you need is the bearskin waterproof tactical jacket to bounce water away like a beast. This is the ultimate waterproof tactical jacket. Why? Because it keeps you warm as a bear and dry as a bone. It's the only 9-pocket soft-shell jacket that's fully waterproof on the outside and lined with bearskin fleece on the inside for totally watertight comfort, wherever you are. Thousands of men and women loved the original bearskin tactical hoodie, so we added some of that magic bearskin fleece to the lining of our waterproof soft-shell jacket. The result? The world's first dual-layer tactical jacket with a water-repellent coating.
Aeonax. So now that we're done in Deepholm, we're going to head through the portal back to Stormwind, and we're going to head to Goldshire in Elwyn Forest, but only if the Darkmoon Fair is active. The Darkmoon Fair comes around once per month at the start of the month for about a week. So if that is up and active, you'll head over to Elwyn and you'll find a portal that will take you to the Darkmoon Fair. Once there, there'll be 3 different mounts we can get from the Darkmoon prize tickets, and you get Darkmoon prize tickets from handing in the quest items, which you get from the Adventurer's Guide. This can be done once per cycle, so every month basically. You can be farming these from various sources using the Adventurer's Guide, having it in your inventory, but I generally buy them from the auction house. They don't cost that much. You can also be doing the daily quests at the Darkmoon Fair Island, which will also give you Darkmoon prize tickets. And with the tickets, we'll be able to buy 3 mounts. The first being the Swift Forest Strider. This is going to cost 180 tickets. The second being the Darkmoon Dancing Bear, that's also going to cost 180 tickets. And then finally we have the Darkmoon Dirigible, which is going to cost 1,000 tickets. So that's going to be the one that you're going to be working towards the most. Also, while you're here, you could do a spot of fishing, and you'll be able to get the Darkmoon Daggermores, which can either be used to turn in for another mount, which is the Darkmoon Fair Skate, or alternatively you can buy the Daggermores from the auction house. There's also a quest item that you can buy once per character that will give you a decent chunk of tickets too, so if you haven't done that, I definitely would recommend doing it. I think it gives like 200 tickets, so it's definitely doing the first time round if you haven't done it. The next 2 destinations are going to be for Horde and Alliance again, but you'll want to stick around your major city, so if you're Alliance you'll want to still be in Stormwind, and if you're Horde you'll want to head over to Orgrimmar. That's because, yeah, sure, Orgrimmar is outside of Eastern Kingdoms, but we'll be using Orgrimmar to get to the next location that is in Eastern Kingdoms. So, near the portal circle where we're at for Deepholm, etc., there'll be another portal just off to the left-hand side that will take you to Tol Barad. You'll click on that and we'll head over to Tol Barad, and there's going to be 2 mounts that we can get here for Horde and Alliance. The first mount is going to be the Spectral Wolf, which will be for Horde, and that is going to cost 160 commendations and will require you to be exalted with your faction at Tol Barad. The next mount is for Alliance, and that is going to be the Spectral Steed. It's going to cost the same commendations, and you will also need to be exalted. The final mount is going to be shared between Horde and Alliance, and that is going to be the Drake of the West Wind, and that one is going to cost 200 commendations, and once again you will need to be exalted. You can get exalted by doing the various dailies found at Tol Barad. You'll want to do the dailies at the Tol Barad Peninsula, and then there'll also be the separate PvP zone in Tol Barad as well, that if your faction is controlling it at the time, there'll be a bunch more dailies for you to do. So you want to be trying to get all of those dailies out of the way, and honestly by the time you have enough commendations to buy a mount you should be exalted anyway, so getting to exalted isn't the hard part. The hard part will be continuously doing the grind to get all of the commendations. Once we're done at Tol Barad, we're going to head back through the portal back to Stormwind or Orgrimmar. This will be the final time now. And then from there we want to go to Vashir. If you haven't unlocked Vashir yet, you should find a quest line that you can follow. It should be found on the Call to Arms board. You might have to accept some of the newer quests, but eventually you should find a quest that will take you to Vashir. You'll follow that chain, you'll be sent out to Vashir, and then once we're in Vashir there's going to be 2 different mounts we can get. The The first mount up is going to be the Vashir Seahorse, and this will add to your total mount collection, but unfortunately this mount can only be used in Vashir. Although it is pretty simple to get, you'll basically just continue the quest line that you were following to get to Vashir. That should continue, and eventually you'll get to a quest to tame a turtle. You'll tame the turtle, it'll die unfortunately. And then you'll go on another quest to tame something a little bit faster, which will be the seahorse. Once you're done with that quest, then you'll have the mount and you'll be done. It's pretty straightforward, it takes like 10, maybe 20 minutes, so not very long at all. The next mount we can get from this zone is going to be Reigns of Poseidus, and this is a BOE mount, so you can also pick it up on the auction house. It doesn't go for that much nowadays, and that is because Poseidus was a rare spawn with a pretty hefty respawn timer. But in Legion, the respawn timer was changed and nerfed quite a bit, and now it's on about a 3 to 8 hour respawn. So you'll find this in Vashir. It does have 5 different spawn locations, which I'll be showing now, and you basically just want to be checking those 5 spawn locations, seeing if Poseidus is up, and if it is up, you can kill it and you will get yourself the mount, which I said is BOE, so you could either use it or sell it if you want, but it doesn't go for a whole lot nowadays. So once we're done in Vashir, we're actually going to swim up out of the water and then get yourself on a flying mount, and you're going to fly back to the mainland of Eastern Kingdoms. Just be a little bit careful with the direction that you take so you don't die to fatigue. You can easily make this flight, but if you kind of take a diagonal path, then you're probably going to die to fatigue, so just be a little bit careful on how you fly there. But our next destination is going to be Stranglethorn Vale, and there we're going to find the dungeon Zul'Gurub. Once you're at Zul'Gurub, you'll head inside, as this is a heroic only dungeon very similar to Zul'Aman, so your difficulty will automatically be set to heroic, and there's going to be 2 potential mounts we can get from this place. The first one is going to be the armored Razashi Raptor, and the second mount is going to be the Swift Zulian Panther. Both of these mounts are on about a 1% drop chance, and you're only going to have 1 shot at these every day because it is a heroic dungeon, so you can come back every day and have an additional chance. So for the armored Razashi Raptor, you'll want to kill Bloodlord Mandokir, which you'll find kind of off to the northeast side of the dungeon. So head over to him, kill him. There's rumours that he needs to be off his mount or whatever, but that's pretty much crap. Just kill the boss and you'll have about a 1% chance of getting the mount. Next one is the High Priestess Kilnara, and you'll find her more off to the west side of the dungeon. Head over to the west, it'll be inside like the temple, and kill the boss once again, nothing special you need to do, and you'll have about a 1% chance of getting that mount.
So I thought this girl was working out like crazy, but she wasn't. I met her yesterday at the gym, and I asked her, "How do you look so great?"
Dang girl, you have such a nice body. I feel like I'm here all the time and I'm not seeing any results. Do you have any tips?
Let me tell you what took my results to the next level. This is what 5 pounds of fat looks like. If we want to lose this or more, check this out.
Thinking about starting to run on the treadmill again. I need to drop my belly fat.
Yeah, no, that's total BS.
I think I'm gonna start cutting carbs.
Also, total BS.
What am I supposed to do then?
Rubbing citric acid on the stomach for a 6.
The final zone on our Eastern Kingdoms tour is going to be Deadwind Pass, and you'll find this zone right next to Stranglethorn Vale. So fly over there, and there's going to be 3 mounts that we can potentially get from this. The first mount up is going to be the Fiery Warhorse, which we're going to get from the raid version of Karazhan. So to get into the raid version, you'll want to head through the main entrance of Karazhan, which you can see right now. Going to head inside here, and we don't have to go very far, we just have to kill the first boss, who is Attunement. Now all of the trash will pull when you pull the boss,
but that doesn't really matter. Just basically run your way to the boss, kill the boss down, and you'll have about a 1% chance of looting the Fiery Warhorse. Now, as this version is a raid, we're only going to be able to do it once per reset per character, so if you want additional chances, you will have to do it on alts, and then do as many alts as you can that week. Now that we're done with the raid version of Karazhan, next up we want to do the Mythic Dungeon version. To get to that, you'll want to fly up to the right side of Karazhan, and you'll find the side entrance that you can head inside. Do make sure you're on Mythic though, as this stuff won't be working on Heroic. So there's going to be 2 mounts that we can get from this place, the first being the Smouldering Ember Worm, and the second being Midnight. I'm going to run through how to get the Smouldering Ember Worm first, because that's basically a timed run of Karazhan. So once you're inside and you click on the wooden doors, the timer will begin, and you'll basically just have to run through the dungeon with moderate speed, but as a 120 this shouldn't be too much of a struggle depending on your item level. So you're going to kill down the Opera fight, and then in the audience section, after you've killed Opera, you want to head over there, and there'll be a purple crystal that you can click on. Now, a couple of things to note: you want to make sure one person, if you're doing this with multiple people, you want to make sure only one person is clicking the crystals, and while you're channeling the cast, you want to ensure you're not moving going to stand perfectly still, as I have heard that moving will interrupt the cast and the crystal can despawn. So once one person has the first crystal, then you want to make your way over to Maiden, but before you get into Maiden's room, there'll be a side room to the left. You want to head inside there, and there we'll find another crystal next to the bed. The person who clicked the first crystal should be the same person to click this next one, and the same rules will apply. So now we've got our second crystal. Next we're going to head over to Morose, which we can jump down and head into the kind of dining area to get to him. You're going to kill Morose, and then just behind Morose will be our third crystal. Same rules once again, make sure the same person is clicking it, and make sure you pick up Morose's keys as well, because they'll be useful. Now that we have the third crystal, we're going to head over to Attunement, but we're not going to head into Attunement's room. Instead, we're going to take a left, and then another left, and we'll be in this kind of spider area. And you want to follow the spider area down, and then to the right, and there we'll find our fourth crystal. It'll be kind of surrounded by webs. So get our fourth crystal, and then with 4, we'll click on the portal just behind the fourth crystal, and then we're going to head up to Curator. So once we're at Curator, you're basically just going to kill Curator, and in between his legs after he's dead should be the 5th crystal. It can be a little bit tough to click, so it might be worth looting any loot that's there just to make the click a little bit easier. And then once we have all 5 crystals, you'll get a new buff, which will be Medivh's Presence, and that'll only have a 5-minute duration, but that's plenty of time. And you're going to take that buff, you're going to run back down, and you're going to head onto the terrace. And then on the terrace, you'll find Medivh's kind of ghost. You'll speak to him, and then after a little bit of RP, then Nightbane will spawn, and this will be a boss that you have to kill. And then once you kill the boss, you'll have a 20% chance per person of the mount dropping. So if you're doing this solo, you're going to have a 20% chance of getting the mount. If you have 3 people in the group, regardless of if they have the mount or not, you'd have a 60% chance. And if you have 5 people, a full group, you would have a 100% chance of the mount dropping. Even if 4 people already have it, the 5th person would guaranteed get that mount. So now that we're done with the Smoldering Ember Worm, the final mount left to get is Midnight, and to get that we're going to head left back over to the terrace, and you should find a staircase that will take you down. You want to follow this down, and this will actually take you into Attunement's rooms, kind of an alternative entrance. So you'll head all the way down there, and you basically just want to kill Attunement, and if you've done this on Mythic, then you'll have a 1% chance of getting the Midnight's Eternal Reigns, which will give you the Midnight mount. So that does bring an end to our Eastern Kingdoms mount tour, and if you enjoyed this video, then look out for more of these because everyone seemed to really like the Kalimdor one, so we're going to continue with Outland next. And if you did enjoy this video or my videos in general, then consider supporting the channel on Patreon. Even $1 support helps quite a lot. You'll find a link to that down below in the description. Outside of that, look out for more videos coming soon. Thanks for watching, guys. See ya!
How to get the most of Grammarly free. It's Kayla on behalf of Grammarly to tell you all about the free version of the best communication assistant in the world. Millions have chosen to go beyond their default grammar checkers and use Grammarly. My cousin Izzy, a graphic designer, is one of them. Izzy loves how quick and reliable Grammarly is at providing feedback. Another reason Izzy signed up for Grammarly is its conciseness suggestions, something she wasn't getting from default grammar checkers. Grammarly notices wordiness.
The World of Warcraft Mount Farm World Tour is back. We're continuing it with the next episode, which is going to be covering the mounts that you can find in Outland. And if you haven't seen this series before, I would recommend checking out the other episodes that cover Eastern Kingdoms and Kalimdor. There's a lot of mounts covered in those episodes, so you're missing out if you haven't seen them. There'll be a link down in the description below and a pop-up now if you want to check them out. As mentioned in this episode, we are going to cover the mounts you can get from Outland. The first stop on our tour of Outland is going to be Shadowmoon Valley, and there we're going to be able to get the Neverwing Drakes. This is going to give 6 mounts in total, and honestly the Neverwing Drakes still look pretty damn good, considering they were introduced in the Burning Crusade, which was a pretty long time ago now. I think they've held up really well and still look pretty good for today's standards, so in my opinion definitely a cool mount to go and get. To get started with this, you'll want to head to Shadowmoon Valley as mentioned, and off in the southeast area you'll find an NPC called Mordonai. He's just kind of to the right of the Sanctum of Stars. You'll go speak to him and he will have a quest chain for you to work through. So you'll go through the quest chain, you'll aid the Neverwings, and you'll be gaining reputation with the Neverwings as well. Basically our overall goal is to gain reputation with the Neverwings. Once we get exalted we'll be able to get the Drakes. But before we can get to that point, we're doing this quest chain to unlock the dailies, but more importantly, the repeatable handing quest for Neverwing eggs. So work through this quest. There are certain bits that can be a little bit bugger,
So if you do get stuck on a quest, I would recommend just checking out Wowhead, or I do have previous videos on this as well if you want a bit more detail. Work through the quest chain and eventually you'll end up at Neverwing Ledge, where you'll unlock the dailies and you can start working through the dailies. You'll also get a quest to hand in a Neverwing egg, which will give you 350 reputation. And then from there you can find Neverwing eggs all around Neverwing Ledge, and also a little bit more north where we were questing previously. And there's also an add-on that I'll link in the description below that will help you find the Neverwing eggs a little bit easier. But they are hidden around, so you want to be keeping an eye out for them. And every time you hand one of those in, you'll get 250 reputation, so you could technically grind your way to Exalted, but it is still going to be quite a time dump, so do keep that in mind. I would recommend doing a good balance of finding eggs and doing the dailies. Once you do hit Exalted, you're going to be able to come back. You'll get a quest that will send you off to pick one of the drakes for free. You'll get the drake that you want for free, and then you'll head back to Neverwing Ledge, and there'll be Drake Dealer Holunk who will sell you the 5 that you're missing. So at the end of all of that, you're going to end up with 6 Neverwing Drakes for your mount collection. The next stop on our tour is going to be Terracar Forest, and the first mounts we're going to get from there are the Never Rays. There's going to be 5 Never Rays in total, and to get these you need to be Exalted with the Shatari Skyguard. This is a reputation grind, but it's a repeatable one, so you could grind it out in a day if you wanted to. It's fairly lengthy but definitely doable in a day, but you can split it up over a few days and get it done that way. Now to get started, you'll want to head over to Sketis in Terracar Forest. It's kind of in the southeast, and just a little bit north up the stream, you'll find a little camp where the Shatari Skyguard are, and you'll be able to start the quest chain. So you need to do the quest chain to start out, you need to complete the whole quest chain, and you'll get the first quest from Severin, which will be World in Shadows. This quest chain will also essentially teach you how to do the repeatable grind as well, so make sure you're working through this quest. And there is one notable part. There'll be a bit where you need to kill these kind of 3 named Arakoas, and one of them will drop a quest item that you need to pick up and use. So do make sure you do that, otherwise you'll be stuck and you won't be able to continue on the quest chain. So do make sure you're looting everything as you go along. But work through the quest chain and you'll need to kill mobs and collect shadow dust, and you'll hand that in and you'll get an elixir to see extra mobs, and then you'll find these extra mobs, they're called like time lost something. Killing these will allow you to collect time lost scrolls. You need to collect 40 time lost scrolls, and then you can hand them in to be able to summon these 4 mini bosses, and then you'll kill the 4 mini bosses, you'll get more items from them which you can hand in again, and then you'll be able to summon a kind of boss called Terok and kill him, and you'll get another chunk of rep. And all of these steps give you reputation once you're done with the quest line at least. So you essentially just work through the quest chain, get it all done, and then once you're done you can start repeating and basically collecting the dust, turn the dust in for the elixir, use the elixir to kill time lost mobs, kill the time lost mobs, collect the scrolls, use the scrolls to summon the mini bosses, which you can find at these like purple crystals, kill the 4 different mini bosses, hand in their items, and kill Terok. And you repeat those steps over and over again once you're done with the main quest line. Keep repeating that over and over again until you are Exalted. Once you are Exalted, in that same area where the Shatari Skyguard are, there'll be a reputation vendor, like a quartermaster, and you'll be able to purchase your mounts, and then you'll have your new 5 Never Ray mounts to add to your collection. We're not quite done in Terracar Forest yet though, as our next mount is going to come from Orkandun. So you're going to head over to Orkandun, and there in the East Dungeon you'll find Sethic Halls. Make sure you're on Heroic difficulty, as running this dungeon is going to give us a chance at the Raven Lord. This is a rare drop mount that's going to come at about a 1 to 2% drop chance, so fairly low, and as it is a Heroic dungeon you can only run this once per character per day. So do make sure you're on Heroic, run inside and clear through the dungeon. There's nothing really special you need to know about this dungeon if you're a fairly highish level character, and if you're from like 80 onwards I don't see having any issues with this. But run through the dungeon until you reach the boss, the second to last boss, Anzu. It's a big bird, it looks pretty much like the mount. Kill that boss, there's no particular special way that you need to kill it, you just need to kill it on Heroic, and kill it on Heroic will give you a 1 to 2% chance of...
I buy the same products you do, only I get them much cheaper. I save hundreds of dollars a month by doing this one simple trick that I'm about to show you. Don't spend another dime.
Looting the Raven Lord. The next stop on our world tour is going to be Nagrand, and there's going to be a bunch of Talbuk mounts we can get from this zone from 2 different sources. The first one up is going to be your faction, so for Horde that will be the Maghar, and for Alliance that will be the Kuranai. You'll get to Exalted with this faction and you'll be able to purchase the 8 Talbuk mounts from your quartermaster from that village. To get started with this, for Horde you'll want to head to your village within Nagrand and find Duranai Deadeye, and he'll give you the quest Impotent Leader. If you've not done this before, this is basically the prerequisite to become neutral with the faction and begin doing the quests and be able to do the repeatable quests to get more reputation. For Alliance you'll want to head more south, you'll find the Alliance base, and there you'll find Huntress Bintuk, and that will start the quest Do My Eyes Deceive Me. Now for both factions I would recommend picking up the Soft Foam Sword, as this will allow you to get one of the NPCs to low HP without killing it, as you need to do that for the quest requirement, so it's going to help you a ton as a high level character. Once you're done with this little bit of a chain, you'll be sent back to the village and you'll now be able to do a bunch of quests, but there'll be one in particular that we're after. For Horde that'll be from Warden Bullrock, and that'll be proving your strength. For Alliance that'll be from Warden Mubif Jill, and that'll be Fierce Enemies. I probably just absolutely butchered that name, but it's fine. Same difference. And that'll give you a quest to go and collect these war beads. You'll go and collect war beads from ogres. There's a bunch of different ogre camps within Nagra.